Good morning. Tomorrow on May 22, we will have the International Biodiversity Day, and today we had come together to discuss Ukraine's signing of the High Seas Treaty, why it is necessary. 2 years ago, the UN adopted the High Seas Treaty, the Treaty on the Lawful Conduct of Seas and the International Law of the High Seas. This treaty introduces legal instruments covering 2/3 of the ocean, effectively half of the Earth's surface, allowing for the creation of marine protected areas, the equitable management of genetic resources, the proper assessment of the environmental impact of human activities in the high seas, and also it was provide for the exchange of technologies and knowledge in this area. The European partners and environmental community and scientists are convinced that Ukraine should sign the treaty, as participation in it is not only a demonstration of the country's pro-European position, but also an opportunity to get access to the international community acting in this area. So I'm happy to introduce our today's speakers and panelists. We have Serhiy Hara, ecologist, biodiversity campaigner at Greenpeace, Ukraine. We have Mr. Alexandre Basbous, political counsel at the French embassy in Ukraine. Also, we will have online Ms. Yulia Ovchinnikova, member of the Ukrainian Parliament and member of the Parliamentary Committee on Environmental Policy and Nature Management. And also today with us is Ms. Sofia Sadaguska, marine biologist at the Institute of Botany of the National Academy of Sciences. So, main question for all the speakers: why the signing of this treaty is important for Ukraine? And I'm happy to give the floor to Serhiy Hara from Greenpeace Ukraine. So what the treaty is about and why it is important. Good morning. I would like to start with a short presentation. So there's a treaty on high seas, where you see it full official name, and this is actually a treaty which will allow to ensure protection and preservation of the marine biodiversity. It was drafted in and approved in June 2023 and open for signing. So a bit of history. In 1982, a UN Convention on Maritime Law was approved and passed and signed. So actually this was the first document that that started to regulate humans' activity in the global ocean. Then Ukraine signed this convention, then and ratified it, and in 2023 Ukraine joined the agreement on compliance with the agreement of preservation of fishery reserves. And now we deal with this high seas agreement. It deals with the open marine areas, which actually this is about 63% of the global ocean where human activity had never been regulated by now, and that is the species and biodiversity there is not protected. The treaty covers 4 main areas. First is the marine genetic resources, and what is important to provide the signatories with equal and fair access to those resources. The next, what is important is to establish protected areas in the open, in the global ocean, and thus assess, evaluate any economic activity led by any country in that areas, and also a sort of oversight on marine technologies used by the signatories. As I mentioned, this is the first ever agreement, the first ever treaty, comprehensive international and legally binding framework treaty to protect biodiversity in high seas. And even if Ukraine has no access to the high seas, still, the signing and ratification is important for Ukraine. So signing it, Ukraine manifests that it is committed to preservation of the high seas and their genetic resources, and that Ukraine wants to get access to equitable use of those resources. Then it will allow us to build up potential and marine technologies. Then this treaty is directly connected to 2 important international conventions, to CBD and CMS, which Ukraine had signed earlier and which it has to comply with. Thus, Ukraine will also contribute to implementation of those 2 conventions, and moreover, signing of this treaty is direct way to Ukraine's Euro integration, because many EU members had already signed that treaty, and Ukraine, which is striving to become an EU member, it anyway has to harmonize its legislation and implement European legislation. So I perhaps need to explain the difference between signing and ratification. We have to do both. Signing of the treaty and any document of the sort just means that you signal to the world that you are ready to ratify and accept provisions of the treaty at the national level, while ratification is a deed with which Ukraine expresses its Ukraine emphasizes that it takes the treaty as a legally binding, and then this ratified charter is submitted to the UN, and after that, Ukraine becomes a full-fledged signatory and party to the treaty. And finalizing what I have just said, I would like to mention that as of now, 21 countries of the world have ratified this treaty. You can find a tracker of the ratification speed. We need to have 60 countries of the world that have ratified, and this will launch 120 days period for ratification of this treaty, and after that it will become actually a piece of international law. As of now, we have 115 signatories and 21 parties, full-fledged parties, and we hope that Ukraine will become the 116th signatory of this treaty and will become a party to it after ratification in the nearest future. Thank you, Sergei, for your presentation. Now it's my pleasure to give the mic to Mr. Alexander Basbus. As Sergei mentioned, that many EU countries has already signed this treaty. We are happy and proud that France has not only signed but also ratified and now promotes signing of this agreement and ratification of this agreement very actively. Why do you think this treaty is important for both the EU and Ukraine, and why it is important for international policy as well?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Let me start by saying very clearly that we understand Ukraine has obviously other priorities. Ukraine is fighting a war of resistance, a war for its survival, and we completely understand that's the #1 priority of the country. We 100% support Ukraine. Our highest authorities are dedicated to this objective. Our president was there very recently to work on that objective. He's in close contact with the Ukrainian authorities on that track. So this is extremely clear for us, and we also understand that at a more practical level, Ukraine has the Black Sea, but no ocean, no high seas. So the country has a little less exposure to the high seas treaty. Now, once we have said that, I'm going to answer your question and say why, in our view, the treaty is important for Ukraine and is a real opportunity for Ukraine. The first thing is, and Serhi mentioned it, it's that I believe there is a straightforward interest for Ukraine, because the first point is, well, Ukraine does not have access to ocean, but Ukrainians are citizens of the planet, and protection of ocean is the interest of all citizens of the planet, and the treaty will work in that direction, and help manage the very huge issues that high seas are facing, be it plastic pollution, 8 million tons a year, be it overfishing, that is a danger to all of humanity, be it the rising level of the water, and so on. So Ukraine is not isolated from those challenges. These are long-term challenges, but these are still important for Ukraine. Second thing is, I think Sergi also spoke about it, and Sofia will. I think there is a direct scientific interest for Ukraine when it comes to the sharing of genetic data. It's important. It's useful for Ukrainian scientists who are part of this effort. And also transfer of technologies. Then I think it was the heart of your question, and to the more political side. There is also an interest and a real opportunity for Ukraine by signing the treaty. The first thing is that it would signal the interest and commitment of Ukraine to multilateralism and international cooperation. First, because the treaty is part of the 2030 targets of protection for protection of the environment, meaning protecting 30% of seas, 30% of earth. Second, because as Sergei mentioned, 115 countries have already signed, from including the US, the UK, Canada, China, India, and all European Union members. So we see it's a very global effort. And so all those important parts of the world have signed. Russia has not signed. So it's also a question of showing which side you're on regarding multilateralism. And then we come to the European Union part. So all European Union member states have signed the treaty, all of them. 15 of them have already ratified it, and the process is ongoing for the rest of them. All of them have signed, including countries that are landlocked, that don't even have access to the sea. So it shows strong alignment inside the EU. Let me add also that Ursula von der Leyen in September 24 directed the Commissioner for Fisheries and Seas to promote actively signing of the High Seas Treaty. So at a political level, the signature of this treaty would be one more strong signal of the commitment of Ukraine to its European path that we very much support as friends, and a sign of alignment with all other member states. Let me add, let's say at a national French level, that for the reasons I previously explained, we are very committed to the treaty. We are supporting the quick ratification. Sergei mentioned it. We aim at a 60 ratification for the Nice summit in June, and we hope that as many countries as possible will finalize their ratification process for the summit, so we can launch can have the treaty starting from that moment. It is a high priority for us, and as strong partners of Ukraine, we do encourage our Ukrainian friends and partners to consider the treaty and sign it, and of course ratify it as soon as possible, since it's in the interest of all. When it comes now to direct Ukrainian, let's say, interest, I think this process also aligns with direct interest when it comes to protection of biodiversity in the Black Sea. It's very consistent with what Ukraine is promoting, is defending, fight against pollution, And I think to conclude that the Nice summit, where Ukraine will be represented, will be an opportunity, first, hopefully, to sign the treaty, and second, also to raise awareness about related issues for Ukraine when it comes to the environmental crimes that have been committed by the Russians and that are related to the Russian war of aggression against Ukraine, be it what happened last December in the Black Sea, the oil spill close to the Kerch Strait, be it also the consequences of the illegal infrastructure built by Russia in Crimea and its consequences on the local biodiversity. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity for Ukraine, and I really hope for fruitful participation of your country to this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Aspus. He forgot to take his earphones and now requested for translation, but it was translated simultaneously and streamed online, actually. We have just heard that it is important for Euro integration. This is one of the priorities in international policy France, and you have heard that it is important also for Ukraine at this moment. I would like to invite to the microphone Ms. Yulia Ovchinnikova, member of the Ukrainian Parliament. Yulia is a member of the Ukrainian Parliament. I would like to ask you the following. Of course, the whole world, I think, or at least many people in the world, focus now on peace negotiations, on the pace of these negotiations. And when Greenpeace approaches to different ministries, we quite often hear that it's not timely moment to think about signing and ratifying this treaty because we should be more focused on other priorities at this very moment. Can you hear me, dear colleagues? Can you hear me? Thank you. I am now in the UK, and I would like to thank you for this presentation. Our committee works with environmental policy and preserving biodiversity. And preservation of marine species is an important trend in our work at the level of the Euro Parliament. Actually, this is the topic which is important for our parliamentary committee, so we are ready to join your work and approach to the Ministry of Environment on behalf of parliamentary committee. I would like to look more closely at the advantages for Ukraine. I think that this treaty opens access to discussions at the international level about damage which Russia makes to the waters of the Black Sea, and at the international level, we have already signed a treaty about International Marine Convention and its article or part 11, and now then Ukraine had ratified a treaty about preservation of fisheries. So now signing of this very treaty about species of high seas, it is a logical step forward to continue Ukraine's previous efforts of Ukraine. What is already important that on the framework on the Maritime Law Convention, we can make pressure on Russia for its harmful actions in the Black Sea, in the Azov Sea, and in the Black Sea droughts. And not least important aspect is that European integration is a top priority for Ukraine, and we have this priority among many parliamentary committees, gradually adapting Ukrainian national legislation to the European acquis communautaire. And the president of the European Commission has sent a special letter to the Euro Commissioner on Environment about signing and ratification of this treaty. So acting in this direction will once again emphasize Ukraine's contribution to this all-European effort. I fully agree with Mr. Baspers that signing of this convention will allow us to counteract to Russia, to the terrorist and occupant country, which does not support and tries to prevent successful ratification of this treaty. And once again, keeping that in mind, having signed and ratified the treaty, we will emphasize once again that the terrorist state opposes all the rational nature-preserving efforts. As to the access to the resources, I've fully agree that an access to the scientific information and possibility for Ukrainian scientific teams to genetic information, to genetic resources, to marine biodiversity, I think will be very useful for Ukrainian economic interests. And speaking about economic interests, we should always keep in mind our economic interests. Oops. No. We should keep in mind the Antarctic, where biodiversity is regulated by a special committee. then Ukraine has a quota in the northwestern part of the Atlantic Ocean, and this is also in the economic interests of Ukraine. All these arguments suggest that these are very powerful arguments that our joint effort is of big political importance, and I hope that it will be signed. On my side, I am ready to support you and promote signing of this treaty in the parliament. Thank you, Julia. Support from the parliament is very important. And now I would like to give the floor to our fourth speaker, to Ms. Sofia Sadagorska from the Institute of Botanical Sciences. And I would like to ask you, let's look at the map. The global ocean occupies 63%, and this treaty will cover 2/3 of the Earth, actually. Even with Ukraine not having access to the high seas, how the signing of the treaty is in the interests of Ukraine in terms of environmental protection. Thank you for this question. On the one hand, I will mention why it is beneficiary for Ukraine's research work and how Ukraine is interested in counteraction to climate change globally. As you truly mentioned, we do not have an access to the high seas, but actually the global ocean resources are in joint use for all the states, and the arguments that we do not have an access to the open to high seas, it is not an argument. We still use it. As you mentioned, the treaty covers 4 spheres. And I would like to look more closely at the first 2 areas which deal with biodiversity. Ratification of the treaty will establish a legal framework for establishing preservation areas in the high seas, which will allow to preserve to put 20% of the global ocean under protection, which was earlier reflected in the Montreal Convention. And as a signatory of that convention, we are committed to protection of the global ocean. Establishing the protected areas will allow some economic activities, but in compliance with the main rules of environmental protection in those areas. The second, the Treaty on High Seas will contribute to compliance with the Preservation of Migrating Species Convention. Ukraine also is a signatory and a party to that convention and committed to comply with the convention and preserve migrating species. And thus, signing the High Seas Treaty, we will contribute to our implementation of the second convention too. Then the treaty comprises special provision about environmental impact assessment, and this will contribute to transparency as to the projects which may have harmful impact on the global ocean. And that will allow us to keep an oversight over new technologies aimed at overcoming new technologies like CO2 in global ocean, or genetic modification of the species, etc. And the treaty will make environmental impact assessment a compulsory thing, which will allow the supervision over implementation of new technologies which may threaten the nature. Then, when we think about the objectives of the Paris Agreement, which we also support and implement. So signing and ratification of this agreement, of this treaty, will show that despite the war, Ukraine is committed to the goals of Paris Agreement. And once again, speaking about Paris Agreement, the treaty will contribute to to counteraction to climate change. Ukraine is a signatory of Paris Agreement and strives to decrease green gas emission effects. And the treaty allows for better management of the oceans and will put under protection the bigger ecosystem on this planet. As we know, the global ocean occupies more than a half of the planet's territory, and by now we do not have any tools, any instruments to preserve and protect this ecosystem. And thus, we will be able to protect species in high seas and protect ecosystems. And for the first time in human history, this will be the first treaty which will indicate a coordination, the link between the climate change and preservation of the global ocean and its ecosystems. And one more topic, marine genetic resources and transfer of technologies. The treaty aims to balance the ocean research and protection of marine genetic resources. What do we mean here? This is any genetic material of marine species which might be used in production of medicines, cosmetics, etc. And the idea of fair distribution of marine genetic resources is rather important. And one more important thing which might be of interest for Ukraine, that the treaty provides for establishment of financial instruments which will request the states to pay contributions, financial contributions, and from the treaty parties, and provide funding for research in the marine area. Actually, this is related to equitable distribution of research resources and equal access to the outcomes of such research. The treaty provides that increasing potential will be managed by the treaty parties. That is data exchange, cooperation between research institutions, the tools to monitor research in these areas, and monitoring of the treaty compliance and implementation. In all 4 areas covered by the treaty, Ukraine will take not only commitments, but also it will receive very good opportunities. And we should keep in mind all those opportunities. So finalizing my statement, I would like to say that signing and ratification of the agreement is in the national interest of Ukraine, and it will open many good opportunities for Ukraine. Thank you, Sophia. We have discussed multiple aspects of signing and ratification of the agreement. Starting with the political aspects and ending with purely environmental aspects. I'm Les Pacic from Peace Release Agency. You mentioned that the MPs are not very keen to work with the treaty or to sign it. Or may we expect them to sign it? We believe that Ukraine has to sign and has to ratify. Nothing prevents Ukraine from both these actions, but we do not see too much activity in this area. We have to stir up this activity to ensure that this work is done by September 20, when the opportunity to sign this treaty will be finished. And we have a big expectation that in June, the parties to this treaty will meet in France, and that during this summit, Ukraine will sign the treaty, and after June, we will start our work on ratification of this treaty by Ukraine. Good morning. I'm a freelance journalist, Marina. Why Russia is not interested in signing the treaty, and why they, as far as I understood from what you said, that they try to counteract to passage of this treaty. As far as we know, Russia demonstrated and did that very clearly back in 2023 that it would never sign the treaty. Perhaps this is because Russia is interested in development of the Arctic resources. Because of melting ice in Arctic, more and more areas of Arctic seas become accessible, and Russia is interested in developing its economic interests there. And that's why perhaps they want to stay aside from signing this joint treaty. While for Ukraine, it would be very useful to get access to the treaty, and Ukraine non-signing the treaty may offer more free actions of Russia in Arctic. So having joined the treaty, Ukraine will get its voice in decision-making as to the marine resources. And let's assume that Russia will act aggressively in the research of sea bottoms or discharge polluted liquids into the ocean, having its powerful and big resources in Arctic Ocean. And we can easily imagine that Russia, without any regulation in this area, Russia can act as freely as it wishes, while we know that global ocean already is polluted with the plastics and other pollutants, and having imagined that Russia will have a big voice at the global ocean level, the use of global ocean level can make huge harm. I am very grateful to all the speakers. So today, having asked the question why joining the treaty is important for Ukraine, we have heard that this is the chance to contribute to the right use of marine resources and oceans, to stay at the right European side, then to get access to scientific resources, and to promote Ukraine's compliance with the other marine conventions to which Ukraine is a party. That is, we hope that this treaty will become at least one of the priorities, and that very soon Ukraine will go forward in signing and even